Is Kaldor Draigo truly the most powerful space marine to ever walk the battlefield? I've seen many legends, fought beside icons of the Imperium, but Draigo, he's something else. The whispers of his name stir unease among my brothers, and for good reason. The Grey Knights, we all know, are a force few would dare cross, but Draigo, he is their heart, their soul, and the most enigmatic of us all. When you think of power in the Imperium, you think of Robot Guilliman, the eternal Primarch, or Horus Lupercal, the traitor who nearly tore the galaxy apart. Their names echo through the halls of history, their deeds shaping the fate of worlds. But Draigo, he's no mere mortal space marine. He's a living legend, forged not by the hands of the Emperor, but by a darkness few could survive. His strength isn't just in his abilities, it's in his resolve. But that resolve, does it come at a price? I've fought in countless battles against enemies that could shatter the strongest of us. But Draigo faced something far worse. He fought the warp itself. Imagine a foe so terrifying that even the mightiest space marine would crumble before it. That's what Draigo did. He sacrificed everything to protect us from the horrors of chaos. His psychic might, unmatched. His resilience, unbreakable. But his power comes with a cost few could endure. Could he truly be the most powerful space marine? Or does his sacrifice make him a broken hero, bound by the very power that should have made him invincible? What makes Draigo's story so intriguing is not just his feats, but the toll they took on him. The Grey Knights have always been about balance, control, and unyielding discipline. Draigo was their paragon, their shining beacon of hope. But when he faced the greatest threat of all, facing down demon Primarchs in the very heart of the warp, he didn't just come out victorious. He came out changed. His soul, torn apart by the very forces he was meant to battle, was pulled into the chaos he so willingly fought against. Could Draigo, the man who faced unimaginable horrors, truly be the most powerful space marine? Some would argue that his might is beyond measure, that his connection to the warp gives him an edge no other marine possesses. But that very connection is also his greatest weakness. The psychic abilities that make him formidable also make him vulnerable. Draigo's power isn't just a weapon, it's a curse. His mind, once sharp and clear, now dances on the edge of madness. Can a warrior truly be the strongest when his very soul is on the line? I've often wondered this myself. How can anyone be the most powerful when they've paid such a steep price for it? Draigo's power is undeniable, but is it a blessing or a curse? His story is one of sacrifice and determination, but also one of suffering and loss. And what of his future? Can he rise above his tragic fate? Or is Draigo doomed to be a shadow of the warrior he once was? The question remains, can Draigo truly be the most powerful space marine when his power comes at the cost of everything he once was? Stay with me and we'll delve deeper into Draigo's rise to power, his greatest battles, and the sacrifices that may have cost him everything. To understand Kaldor Draigo, you must first understand the man behind the legend. Draigo was not born to greatness. Like all space marines, he was chosen, found among the masses and transformed into something far beyond the human he once was. But Draigo's rise didn't follow the usual path. While most Astartes are raised for battle, Draigo's journey was marked by his devotion to a higher cause, protecting humanity from the forces of chaos. And from the moment he joined the Grey Knights, his destiny was sealed. The Grey Knights were the Emperor's secret weapon against the darkness, a chapter of warriors who specialized in combating the demonic legions that stalked the Imperium. As a young Marine, Draigo showed remarkable promise, especially in his psychic abilities, a rare and invaluable gift among the Grey Knights. But psychic power, as any warrior knows, is both a blessing and a curse. And for Draigo, this gift would come to define his fate. As Draigo rose through the ranks, he became a paragon of the Grey Knights, a figure of unparalleled psychic might and unshakable leadership. His strength in the warp was unrivaled, and his skills in combat made him an icon within the Imperium. But Draigo wasn't just known for his power. It was his unwavering commitment to the Emperor's cause that set him apart. As the Grand Master, he led the Grey Knights in battles where others would falter. His was a life lived on the edge of despair, fighting against enemies that sought to corrupt and destroy humanity itself. His trials were never-ending, but Draigo embraced his fate, knowing that the weight of the Imperium rested on his shoulders. But the real test came when Draigo was forced to confront the very heart of chaos itself. The demon Primarchs, beings of unimaginable power, twisted by the Chaos Gods, had returned, and Draigo was the only one strong enough to face them. The galaxy trembled as Draigo and his Grey Knights fought against the most fearsome foes the Imperium had ever known. These battles were not just physical. They were psychic, mental, and spiritual struggles that tested Draigo in ways no mortal could withstand. It was during these dark times that Draigo made the ultimate sacrifice. To save his brothers and prevent the demon Primarchs from breaking through into real space, Draigo gave himself to the warp. He allowed his very soul to be bound by the forces of chaos in order to protect the Imperium. His body was battered, his mind shattered by the horrors he faced. And for what seemed like an eternity, Draigo fought within the warp, his consciousness caught in an endless battle against the demonic legions. But Draigo did not break. His strength of will, his unrelenting devotion to the Emperor, kept him fighting. He struggled against the whispers of demons, their voices echoing in his mind, trying to tear him apart. His psychic powers, once a gift, were now a curse. The more he fought, the more the warp bent his very essence. His soul was scarred, twisted, but through it all, Draigo held firm. He would not be consumed. He would not be lost. When Draigo finally emerged from the warp, he was no longer the man he had once been. His mind, once clear and focused, now echoed with the dark whispers of the warp. His psychic abilities had grown exponentially, but they came with a cost. Draigo's power was unmatched, but it was uncontrollable. The demons, which he had once fought with clarity, now lingered in his mind, speaking to him, tempting him. His very being was caught between the mortal realm and the chaotic energies of the warp. This transformation left Draigo a shadow of the man he once was. His fellow Grey Knights, once his brothers, now viewed him with awe and fear. They saw the power he wielded, but they also saw the toll it had taken on him. Draigo was no longer the clear-eyed leader they had once followed. He was something more, and yet something less. His transformation was not just physical, it was psychological. Draigo could no longer see the world the way he once had. His vision was clouded by the madness of the warp. The question that haunted him, and the Imperium, was whether he had truly become the savior they needed, or if the very power that made him so mighty had destroyed the man he once was. Was Draigo still their leader, their protector, or had he become something darker? Even Draigo himself wondered, was this transformation worth the cost? Was he still the Grand Master, or had the warp turned him into something else entirely? As the whispers of demons filled his mind, Draigo was forced to confront a deeper question. Could he still be the most powerful space marine if that power had come at the cost of everything he once was? To truly understand Kaldor Draigo, we must first grasp the depth of his journey. Draigo was not born to greatness, nor did he rise through the traditional paths of honor and nobility that many of the Imperium's greatest warriors walked. No, Draigo's ascent was forged in blood, power, and an unwavering devotion to the Emperor's cause. But it wasn't just the external wars that shaped him. It was the relentless internal struggle, the gnawing doubt that followed him through every victory, every battle that defined his path. From the beginning, Draigo showed an incredible mastery over his psychic abilities, though his rise through the Grey Knights was not guaranteed. The chapter itself is unique, not just for its warriors, but for its use of psychic power as a weapon against the forces of chaos. Draigo's gifts were rare and powerful, but in the world of the Grey Knights, even extraordinary power isn't enough. What made Draigo stand out was not just his mastery of the warp. It was his unyielding sense of duty, his relentless will, and the cold discipline that he honed through years of training. Yet even as Draigo rose to power, a part of him wondered, could his psychic prowess, his power to manipulate the very forces of the warp, be a curse rather than a blessing? The Grey Knights are known for their purity of purpose, their unshakable focus. But Draigo's deep connection to the warp was something otherworldly, more than just a weapon to wield in battle. It whispered to him, constantly testing his will, wearing down his resolve. Even as he led the Grey Knights to victory, his mind often felt the weight of it all. The constant strain of wielding such power, of controlling the dangerous forces of chaos, began to show cracks in his once unshakable confidence. When Draigo ascended to the rank of Grand Master, the burden he carried grew heavier. No longer just a warrior, he was now the spiritual and tactical leader of the most elite force in the Imperium, tasked with saving humanity from the insidious and relentless forces of chaos. His every decision was a matter of life and death, and Draigo took it all upon himself. The lives of his brothers, the fate of the Imperium, these were the things that kept Draigo awake at night, wondering if he was truly enough. As he led the Grey Knights through ever more deadly conflicts, Draigo's psychic abilities became his most trusted ally. But his power was not without its dangers. Each use of his psychic might left him more scarred, his mind more fragile, as the energies of the warp threatened to overrun him. His incredible mental fortitude kept him in control, but just barely. The whispers of the warp were always there, urging him to surrender, to lose himself in the chaos. And yet, Draigo held firm. The true test of Draigo's power came when the demon Primarchs, the most terrifying and dangerous beings to ever walk the universe, returned to the Imperium. Draigo had faced many threats, but none like this. The demon Primarchs were beings of godlike power, twisted by the chaos gods into abominations of unimaginable strength. The galaxy itself seemed to tremble under their weight. The Grey Knights were called upon to face them, but Draigo knew that this battle would push him beyond his limits. As Draigo faced down the demon Primarchs, he could feel the pull of the warp like never before. Every step he took, every blow he struck, was a struggle against the very forces he fought to contain. The power he wielded in battle was immense, but so too was the price. With each victory over the demons, Draigo's sanity began to fray. His mind, once sharp and clear, was slowly being consumed by the very powers he commanded. The more he fought, the more his connection to the warp deepened, and the more it cost him. Then came the turning point, the moment that would forever change Draigo. To prevent the demon Primarchs from entering real space and bringing about the end of the Imperium, Draigo made a decision that would mark the beginning of his greatest trial. He sacrificed himself, his mind, body, and soul, allowing himself to be consumed by the warp in order to save the Imperium. In that moment, Draigo became both hero and martyr, trapped within the chaotic depths of the warp, a place where time and space twisted and reality itself buckled under the weight of demonic forces. But Draigo did not break. His psychic powers, though pushed to their limits, allowed him to hold on, to fight through the madness. He became something more than just a man, something greater than any warrior who had ever existed. Yet, at the same time, he became something else. The price of his power was steep, and as Draigo emerged from the warp, he was no longer the same. His body was scarred, his mind fractured by the madness of chaos, but his power, his psychic might, had never been greater. Yet was this transformation truly a blessing, or had Draigo paid too great a cost? His brothers, the Grey Knights who had once followed him without question, now looked upon him with a mixture of awe and fear. They knew that Draigo had saved them all, but at what price? His mind was no longer his own, torn between the mortal realm and the chaos of the warp. Draigo had become a living contradiction, powerful, yes, but also broken. He had sacrificed his humanity to save the Imperium, but could he ever truly be the same? Was this the moment Draigo truly became the most powerful space marine? Or had the warp taken something from him that could never be regained? Kaldor Draigo is not just any space marine. He stands apart not because of his power, but because of what that power costs him. To be a Grey Knight is to be forged by duty, but Draigo's connection to the warp, the very force he battles against, makes him different. His abilities are unmatched, but they come with a price that stretches beyond the physical realm. It is the internal war that Draigo fights, the psychological toll of wielding such power, that truly defines him. Draigo's psychic abilities are among the greatest the Imperium has ever known. The warp flows through him, bending to his will, allowing him to channel immense power. But with each use of his abilities, Draigo risks losing himself to the madness of the warp. This connection, once seen as a gift, has become a constant source of torment. Every time Draigo calls upon his psychic powers, he feels the suffocating pressure of the warp, its cold, chaotic grip trying to pull him deeper into its grasp. It's not just a battle against external demons, it's a battle within himself, a constant fight to retain control. Imagine, for a moment, the weight of that power, the overwhelming sensation of the warp thrumming beneath your skin, swirling around your mind. Draigo does not just tap into it. He is bound to it, and every battle against the demons, every psychic struggle, is a gamble. He is always on the edge, always walking the fine line between control and collapse. The warp is not simply an enemy to fight. It is an entity that seeks to claim him, to devour his very soul. But Draigo's struggle is not just internal. His leadership, his tactical brilliance, has always been a defining trait. On the battlefield, Draigo is a master strategist. His ability to anticipate his enemies' moves unparalleled. His psychic powers allow him to read the battlefield in ways that no other space marine can. He can sense the faintest movement in the warp, anticipating attacks before they even happen. He can alter the very fabric of reality, shaping the battlefield to his will. His Grey Knights follow him without question because they trust him to lead them to victory. But the cost of that leadership is high. Draigo's fear is not just that the warp will consume him, it's that his brothers will see it. They look to him not only as their leader but as a paragon of purity. Draigo has fought and bled alongside them, but the more he taps into his powers, the more distant he becomes from them. His fear of losing himself to the warp begins to cloud his decisions. There are moments, fleeting but real, when Draigo hesitates in battle. A flicker of doubt crosses his mind. Am I still in control? These moments are brief, but they carry weight. He fears that one day, that moment of weakness will cost him everything. What happens when a leader's greatest strength becomes his greatest vulnerability? Draigo has always been the pillar holding the Grey Knights together, but his internal struggles threaten to fracture that foundation. He begins to question whether his power is truly a gift, or whether it has become a curse. His leadership is no longer just about guiding his brothers to victory. It's about holding on to the very humanity that makes him who he is. This internal conflict reaches its peak when Draigo faces the demon Primarchs. As the battle rages around him, Draigo's powers are pushed to their absolute limit. The air crackles with psychic energy, the warp swirling violently, threatening to consume him. And in those moments, Draigo feels it, the sheer weight of his fear. For a fleeting moment, he wonders if he is still the man he once was, or if he has already become something else. Can he truly be the Emperor's champion when the very power that makes him great is the same force that could tear him apart? In the heat of battle, Draigo must push past that doubt. He channels his fear, using it to fuel his resolve. His psychic powers surge, bending reality to his will, and in that moment, Draigo leads his brothers to victory. But even as he triumphs, a part of him knows that the cost of his power is far greater than any victory. His relationship with his brothers becomes strained, not because of a lack of trust, but because of a growing sense of isolation. Draigo fears that if they knew the truth of what he had become, they would no longer see him as the hero they once did. This internal battle becomes even more poignant after Draigo's sacrifice. When he gives himself to the warp, his psyche is shattered, his soul bent and twisted by the very forces he fought against. He emerges from the warp stronger than ever, but his mind is no longer his own. The whispers of demons plague him, echoing in his thoughts. He is a hero, yes, but he is also a broken man. A man who has lost more than he could ever regain. Draigo's power comes at a terrible price, one that few could comprehend. He is the greatest of the Grey Knights, the protector of humanity, but his victory is bittersweet. His fear of losing himself, of becoming a demon, has shaped every decision he makes. He fights not just for the Imperium, but for his own soul. His power is unmatched, but it is a power that could destroy him from within. The question remains, can Draigo ever truly be the man he once was? Or has he become a living paradox, a being of immense power whose greatest battle is against himself? When Kaldor Draigo faced the demon Primarchs, the very air seemed to crackle with malevolent energy. Mortarion, the demon prince of Nurgle, brought with him an aura of suffocating decay. The stench of death clung to the air like a wet blanket, and with every step he took, the ground beneath Draigo's feet seemed to rot, decaying as if the very earth was giving up the fight. Draigo could feel the oppressive weight of Mortarion's presence, the slow, agonizing pull of decay and disease creeping into his bones. It was as if every breath he took was laden with the poison of death itself. Yet Draigo stood firm, his psychic powers surging in a desperate, silent rebellion against the plague-bearing monster before him. Beside Mortarion stood Magnus the Red, his form a towering monument of psychic power and chaotic glory. The air shimmered around him with unstable energy as his enormous, burning gaze swept across the battlefield. Magnus's power crackled in the air like a thunderstorm, each thought a burst of psychic lightning capable of rending reality itself. Draigo could feel the storm inside his mind, each burst of psychic force threatening to overwhelm him, to twist his thoughts and corrupt his actions. It was as though every word spoken by Magnus reverberated in Draigo's very soul, tearing at the fabric of his will. But Draigo was not alone. His Grey Knights fought alongside him, their resolve as unshakable as his. Draigo led them with precision and brilliance. His tactical genius was evident as he guided his brothers to strike at the heart of the demon Primarch's forces. The Grey Knights moved with a synchronicity that could only be achieved under Draigo's leadership. Each strike, each psychic incantation, was part of a greater strategy to contain and eventually defeat the overwhelming power of the demons. But Draigo could feel the weight of the battle pressing on him. Every psychic blast he unleashed, every moment he held his ground against the demon Primarchs, came at a cost. His connection to the warp grew stronger with every passing moment, and he feared the same thing that had haunted him for years. Would he lose control? In the heart of battle, Draigo's leadership shone brighter than ever. He directed his brothers with cold, calculated precision, weaving their powers together to create waves of psychic energy that decimated the demonic hordes. He could feel the warp around him, pulsating with every psychic command. It was not just a battlefield. It was an arena where Draigo's mind and soul were laid bare, where the very fabric of his existence was being tested. But even as he orchestrated victory, there was a part of him that couldn't help but wonder, how much longer could he hold on? Could a man wield such power and remain sane? Or was he becoming something else entirely? Each time Draigo clashed with Mortarion, he felt the world around him decay, as though the very universe was crumbling under the weight of chaos. The whispers of Nurgle clawed at his thoughts, tempting him with promises of peace through surrender. But Draigo resisted. He channeled the strength of his brothers, using every ounce of willpower to hold back the overwhelming tide of death that threatened to consume him. But as he struck the final blow, the cost became painfully clear. His mind cracked under the pressure of the warp, his thoughts warping like the world around him. Mortarion fell, but Draigo's victory was not without its price. With Magnus, the battle raged not just in the physical realm, but within Draigo's mind. The storm of psychic energy felt like it was tearing at the very fabric of his being. Draigo's connection to the warp, once a tool, now felt like a weight around his neck. Every psychic pulse from Magnus reverberated through Draigo's thoughts, pushing him closer to the edge. He could feel his own sanity fracturing, his resolve wavering. Could he resist the call to join the very chaos he fought against? He pushed forward, tapping into the core of his psychic power, striking with the full force of his will. And Magnus, the great demon Primarch, fell. But Draigo knew this victory had cost him dearly. His mind, already battered, was pushed further into the depths of the warp. The battle ended with Draigo victorious, but the cost of that victory was clear. His body, though unharmed, bore the marks of his struggle. His brothers, who had once stood by him with unshakable faith, now looked at him with a mixture of awe and fear. Draigo had won, but what had he lost in the process? His psychic power had reached new heights, but at what cost to his mind? What had he become in the process? As Draigo stood amidst the ruins of the battlefield, victorious yet broken, a bitter truth began to settle within him. His sacrifice had saved the Imperium, but it had also changed him. He had given everything, not just for his brothers, but for a cause that now seemed more distant than ever. The warp, which had once been his greatest enemy, had become something more, a part of him, twisting his soul and eroding his humanity. Draigo's fear, which had once been a distant whisper, now roared in his mind. The victory had come at the cost of his humanity. Was it worth it? Had Draigo become the ultimate protector of the Imperium, or had he become something that even the Emperor would fear? The battle was won, but the war within Draigo had only just begun. And as he stood, watching the ashes of his enemies smolder, he knew one thing for certain. The price of power was greater than he had ever imagined. Kaldor Draigo's victory over the demon Primarchs came at a steep price. The forces of chaos had been driven back, their commanders vanquished, but the man who emerged from that battle was not the same as the one who had entered it. Draigo, once the unshakable Grand Master of the Grey Knights, stood on the precipice of something far darker. His connection to the warp, once a tool he controlled, had become something else entirely. It was no longer just a weapon in his hands. It was a weight on his soul, and it had cost him more than he could ever repay. As Draigo surveyed the battlefield, he felt an overwhelming sense of loss. The demons, their once formidable presence now shattered, were gone, but their influence lingered in Draigo's mind. Every psychic pulse that reverberated in his skull, every flicker of thought that crossed his consciousness, reminded him of the battle he had fought not just with the demon Primarchs, but with himself. The battle had been won, but the cost was something far more insidious, his very humanity. The curse that now clung to Draigo was not one born of physical injury or battle wounds. It was a mental and spiritual burden, one that threatened to swallow him whole. The warp, once a realm of enemies to be vanquished, had become a part of him, twisting and distorting his thoughts. The whispers of demons, once distant echoes, now clawed at his consciousness with an urgency that was impossible to ignore. They urged him to surrender, to give in to the chaos that was now part of him. But Draigo resisted. He fought against the pull, knowing that if he gave in, everything he had fought for, the Grey Knights, the Imperium, would be lost. It wasn't just the whispers of the demons that plagued Draigo. The burden of leadership, of being the sole protector of his brothers, weighed on him in ways it never had before. His Grey Knights looked to him for guidance, for strength. They had followed him through countless battles, and now they depended on him more than ever. But how could Draigo lead them when his mind was no longer his own? He could still feel the pressure of the warp pressing down on him, warping his thoughts, making him question everything he once believed in. Was he truly the protector of humanity, or had he become a vessel for something darker, something the Imperium could never accept? Draigo's connection to the warp was now inescapable. Every time he called upon his psychic powers, he could feel it pulling him deeper into its grasp. The very power that had made him a hero had now become his curse. In his battle against the demon Primarchs, he had crossed a line that few had ever dared to approach. And while his power was unmatched, it had come at a cost. Draigo's mind, once sharp and focused, was now fractured. He could feel his thoughts slipping away, lost in the turbulent maelstrom of the warp. Every time he used his abilities, a part of him was consumed, and he couldn't help but wonder, how much of himself would he lose before it was too late? The curse that Draigo now carried was not just a mental struggle, it was physical as well. His once imposing presence, the aura of strength and purity that had defined him, was now clouded by the warp. He could feel it manifesting in his body, his senses heightened, but at the cost of his control. His once sturdy form now felt foreign to him, his skin tingling with the unnatural energies that surged beneath it. Every movement he made, every step he took, felt like a battle against his own body. Was this what it meant to be a hero? To give everything and still feel incomplete, broken? The Grey Knights, his brothers in arms, were not blind to the change in Draigo. They saw the toll it had taken on him, the way his once clear eyes now seemed clouded, distant. They had always trusted him. He was their leader, their grand master. But now Draigo felt their eyes on him in a way that unsettled him. He could feel their concern, their fear, even as they rallied behind him. But could they still follow him? Could they still trust the man who had given himself to the warp, whose very mind was in constant conflict? Draigo's greatest fear was not that he would lose the battle against the demons. No, it was the fear that he would lose himself, that the very power that made him a hero would strip him of everything he had once been. In his heart, he knew the truth. The Draigo that had led the Grey Knights into battle, the Draigo that had stood tall against the forces of chaos, was no more. The victory over the demon Primarchs had come at a cost, one that Draigo was still coming to terms with. As he stood there, surrounded by his brothers, Draigo could no longer ignore the question that had haunted him since the battle. Was it worth it? Had his sacrifice, his complete surrender to the warp, truly been the final act of a hero? Or had it been the beginning of his tragic fall? The answer, he knew, was not one he could find on the battlefield. It was a question that only time could answer, and Draigo was terrified of what that answer might be. The curse of Draigo was not just a matter of power, it was the loss of his very self. And as he led the Grey Knights into the next battle, Draigo could only wonder, what have I become? To understand Kaldor Draigo's true place among the Imperium's greatest warriors, you must measure him not only by his strength and victories, but by the very nature of the battles he's forced to fight. Comparing Draigo to ordinary space marines is almost unfair, for his battlefield is not the material world, but the warp itself. His enemies are not heretics or xenos, but the immortal, nightmarish manifestations of chaos. Yet even when compared to the most powerful space marines, even to those who stand on the edge of legend, Draigo occupies a category all his own. Space Marines, the Emperor's angels of death, are unmatched warriors in their own right. To see a single Astartes in combat is to witness a force that can shatter regiments, topple armored vehicles, and strike fear into the hearts of enemies across the galaxy. But Draigo's power is not measured by physical strength alone. It is psychic, spiritual, and existential. Against ordinary space marines, Draigo is a titan among giants. Where other Astartes struggle against demonic incursions, Draigo strides through them with purpose. His psychic presence alone is enough to annihilate lesser demons in his path. His mind is a fortress of willpower so immense that even the most cunning warp entities hesitate to reach into it. The challenges that crush most space marines, the mental corruption, the whispers of chaos, the soul-rending visions, are the very storms Draigo stands within every day of his existence. But to truly understand his power, you must compare him to the greatest of the Imperium's warriors, the Primarchs. Robot Guilliman, resurrected and reforged in the darkest age of the Imperium, stands as the very symbol of order and leadership. Guilliman's strategic genius is unmatched, his presence on the battlefield inspiring entire armies to push beyond their limits. But Guilliman, for all his might, fights primarily in the material realm. His enemies are mortal, tangible, and governed by the laws of reality. Guilliman is a demigod, but Draigo fights in a realm where even demigods falter. Then there is Vulcan, the perpetual Primarch, whose endurance is unmatched. Ferus Manus, whose strength and resilience are legendary. Sanguinius, the angelic Primarch whose grace and fury defined an age. These figures are the gold standard of what it means to be a Space Marine. And yet, even they did not tread the warp alone. Even they would not willingly walk into the heart of madness where Draigo wages his eternal war. This is where Draigo begins to surpass them. Where Primarchs lead, Draigo survives. Where Primarchs inspire, Draigo endures. Where Primarchs battle in the flesh, Draigo battles in the soul. But what about the demon Primarchs? Those twisted reflections of their former glory. The beings Draigo has directly faced. Mortarion, whose very presence erodes life. Magnus, whose mind can unravel reality. Angron, whose rage can ignite planets. These are not adversaries that even Primarchs can consistently overcome. These beings are empowered by the Chaos Gods, their strength limitless, their forms immortal. And yet Draigo has fought them. He has banished them. He has stood against them in the warp itself, on their own ground where they are strongest. No Space Marine can claim such a feat. No Primarch, save perhaps the Emperor himself, has fought in the warp as Draigo has and returned with soul intact. Still, Draigo's power is not absolute. His connection to the warp, the very thing that elevates him above others, is also the greatest threat to his existence. Guilliman does not fear becoming a demon. Sanguinius did not fear losing his soul. Vulcan does not fear being twisted by the warp. But Draigo fights every moment to ensure the corruption clawing at his mind does not take him. That struggle places him on a razor's edge, one that few could ever endure. This makes Draigo something unique among the Imperium's warriors. He is both its greatest champion and its most fragile, its strongest sword and its most damaged shield. In raw power, mental, psychic, and spiritual, Draigo surpasses almost every Space Marine that has ever lived. In sheer resilience, he stands nearly alone. And in terms of victories won in the warp, victories that shape the survival of humanity, he may be unmatched by any but the Emperor himself. But the question that haunts Draigo's legacy is not whether he is the strongest. It is whether that strength is sustainable. Whether a man who wages war against the warp can ever remain whole. And so, even as Draigo stands above all others, a deeper question remains. Can a warrior who wages battle within his own soul truly be the strongest? Or is he, perhaps, the most tragic? The Grey Knights are a secretive chapter, more than just warriors. They are the last line of defense between humanity and the forces of chaos. For centuries, they have stood in the shadows, protecting the Imperium from the horrors of the warp. And at the heart of this order stands Kaldor Draigo, their Grand Master, their protector, their living legend. But as the Grey Knights continue their war against the demonic legions, Draigo finds himself at the center of a deeper conflict, one that may not just shape the future of the Grey Knights, but the very future of the Imperium itself. The Grey Knights, known for their unwavering devotion to the Emperor and their singular focus on fighting chaos, are more than just soldiers. They are living embodiments of humanity's will to survive. Their mission is a sacred one, to protect the Imperium from the horrors of the warp, and to fight the demons that infest its every corner. For most Space Marines, the battle is against the enemies of mankind, traitors, xenos, and heretics. But for the Grey Knights, their eternal struggle is against the very heart of chaos itself. They stand at the precipice of humanity's survival, and their leadership is a heavy burden to bear. And at the helm of this order stands Draigo. Kaldor Draigo's role as the Grand Master of the Grey Knights is a position that demands not just power, but purity of mind, body, and soul. His psychic abilities, unparalleled among his brothers, make him a leader unlike any other. Draigo's connection to the warp, though dangerous and corrosive, is a tool he uses with devastating precision. He stands as the Grey Knight's most powerful weapon, capable of bending the very forces of chaos to his will. But in doing so, he bears the weight of that power with a heavy heart. His leadership is not without its challenges. While his brothers revere him as their leader, Draigo's constant struggle against the influence of the warp weighs heavily on him. The Grey Knights are a brotherhood, bound together by a shared duty and an unshakable faith in the Emperor. But Draigo's connection to the warp is a secret that he guards closely. He is the embodiment of strength, yes, but also of vulnerability. His psychic abilities, which grant him unmatched power, also serve as a constant reminder of the thin line he walks between salvation and damnation. As the leader of the Grey Knights, Draigo's responsibility is not just to fight the demons, but to guide his brothers in their eternal war. His tactical genius has led them to countless victories, but it is his unwavering dedication to their cause that inspires the loyalty of every Grey Knight under his command. Draigo is not just a warrior, he is a symbol of hope, a beacon in the darkness of the Imperium's endless war. His decisions, his leadership, and his sacrifices have shaped the destiny of the Grey Knights, and in many ways, the fate of the Imperium itself. But the cost of Draigo's power is beginning to take its toll on his relationship with his brothers. While they respect him as their Grand Master, Draigo's isolation grows. The very power that makes him their greatest weapon also distances him from them. They see the change in him, the way his eyes have dulled, the way his once unshakable confidence has begun to waver. They see the weight of the warp pressing down on him, and they fear what Draigo is becoming. The Grey Knights are a brotherhood forged in secrecy and sacrifice, but Draigo's struggle is unlike that of any other. His connection to the warp is something they can never fully understand, and it creates a divide that grows ever wider with each passing day. Draigo, who once stood as the embodiment of purity, now finds himself questioning everything he has ever believed. Can he continue to lead his brothers when the very power that makes him strong is the same power that threatens to tear him apart? Can a leader so bound to the forces of chaos truly guide his brothers in their eternal war? The Grey Knights are a chapter built on faith, and Draigo's faith has been tested in ways no one could ever imagine. His relationship with his brothers is no longer just one of leader and follower. It has become one of isolation, of distance, and of uncertainty. The more Draigo struggles with the warp, the more he feels disconnected from the very brothers he has fought beside for centuries. The weight of his responsibility, the burden of his power, is becoming too much for him to bear alone. As Draigo stands at the helm of the Grey Knights, he must ask himself, what is the price of leadership? What is the cost of victory? In the end, Draigo's story is not just about his power or his battles against the demon Primarchs. It is about the cost of the choices he has made, the sacrifices he has borne, and the price of his unwavering dedication to his brothers and the Imperium. He is a living legend, a hero of unimaginable strength, but he is also a man who is losing himself. The Grey Knights have fought alongside him, and they will continue to fight beside him. But the question remains, can Draigo continue to lead them? Or will the very power that makes him great be his undoing? The battle against the demon Primarchs has been won. The forces of chaos pushed back, but Draigo's war is far from over. For Kaldor Draigo, there is no true rest, no respite from the toll of the endless war he wages, not just on the battlefield, but within himself. As the Grand Master of the Grey Knights, Draigo's power has only grown. He is now one of the most formidable beings in the Imperium, his psychic abilities honed to a razor's edge. Yet with every surge of power, there comes a greater cost, and Draigo is faced with a question that haunts him. What is the true price of power, and can it ever be sustained without breaking him? Draigo stands at a crossroads. His victories are numerous, his reputation unmatched, but the very essence of what makes him a hero now threatens to destroy him. His connection to the warp is no longer simply a tool. It is an inseparable part of him, a force that grants him immense strength, but at a price that is becoming increasingly steep. With every battle, Draigo risks losing more of himself. The whispers of demons, once faint, now louder, rattle in the back of his mind, tempting him to surrender. The warp is a treacherous ally, and Draigo, despite his unmatched psychic power, knows this truth all too well. What does the future hold for Draigo? Can he continue to stand at the helm of the Grey Knights, leading them against the forces of chaos? Or will he become the very thing he has sworn to destroy? His journey is now marked by a painful duality. On one hand, he is the protector of humanity, the eternal champion. But on the other, he is a man bound to a power that threatens to consume him. The very essence of his being is at odds with his mission. How long can Draigo continue to balance this delicate line between salvation and damnation? In the quiet moments, when Draigo allows himself to reflect, the weight of his choices presses upon him like an iron shackle. The Emperor's light, once a beacon of unwavering faith and clarity, feels dimmer, obscured by the chaos he now carries within himself. Draigo wonders if he is truly worthy of leading the Grey Knights. Can he remain the shining example of purity? Or is he doomed to become a broken figure, a shadow of the man he once was? But Draigo cannot afford to let doubt consume him. His role as Grand Master has always been defined by action, by decisiveness. There is no time for weakness, no time for regret. The Imperium needs him, the Grey Knights need him, and so he pushes forward. Draigo leads his brothers into battle, not just against the demons of the warp, but against the encroaching darkness within himself. His mind, fractured as it may be, remains sharp, his will unyielding. But even the strongest will can only endure for so long before it begins to break. The future of Draigo's power, then, is uncertain. He is too valuable to be discarded, too powerful to ignore. But Draigo knows that his power cannot be wielded forever. He is not immortal. The strain of using the warp as he does is wearing on him, and the fear that it might one day overwhelm him grows with each passing day. Could Draigo one day be consumed by the very force he has mastered? Could he fall, not to the demons he fights, but to the corruption within himself? It is this uncertainty that haunts Draigo's every decision. The Grey Knights, those who follow him without question, do not see the struggles that rage inside their leader. They see only the Grand Master, their unwavering, powerful leader who has led them to victory time and again. But Draigo knows the truth. The closer he comes to the heart of the warp, the more it pulls at him, threatening to tear him apart. His connection to the warp has made him powerful, yes, but it has also bound him in ways that no warrior should ever be bound. Draigo may lead the Grey Knights for now, but for how long? Draigo's fear is not for his own survival, but for the future of the Grey Knights. What happens if he loses control? What happens if the very thing he has fought to contain breaks free and destroys everything he has worked for? The thought is unbearable. He has sacrificed everything, his mind, his soul, his very humanity, for the Imperium, for his brothers. But what if it's not enough? What if, in the end, Draigo becomes the very thing he has sworn to destroy? And yet, even in the face of this doubt, Draigo cannot allow himself to falter. The Imperium needs the Grey Knights, needs Draigo to stand firm against the forces of chaos. He is the last line of defense, and though his power is dwindling, though his spirit is broken, he will not abandon his brothers. The war against chaos will not end. It cannot. Draigo knows that his time is limited, but for now, he will continue to fight. He will continue to lead. But as Draigo stands on the precipice of the unknown, he cannot shake the thought that one day, the very power that has made him a legend will destroy him. He is the protector of humanity, but who will protect Draigo when the time comes for him to face the consequences of his power? The tale of Kaldor Draigo is one of power, sacrifice, and the eternal struggle between light and darkness. A warrior who has been forced to wield the very force he fights against, Draigo stands as a tragic hero, an embodiment of humanity's greatest strength, but also of its deepest flaws. His rise to power, his battles against the demon primarchs, and his eventual sacrifice have marked him as one of the most powerful figures in the Imperium. But in the end, the question that lingers over Draigo's legacy is simple yet profound. Can Draigo ever truly be whole again? For Draigo, the war is not just against the demons of chaos. It is the war against the power that courses through him, the very warp energy that has given him his strength and cursed him with its influence. Draigo stands as a living testament to the dangers of wielding such immense power. The more he taps into the warp, the further he drifts from the man he once was. His soul, once pure and unwavering, is now fractured, twisted by the very forces he has fought so hard to contain. But Draigo, ever the soldier, continues to march forward, unwilling to surrender, unwilling to let his brothers down. As Draigo leads his Grey Knights into battle, there are moments when he can feel the toll of his sacrifice. Each victory is tainted with the knowledge that it comes at a cost. The power he wields is immense, but it is also consuming. The whispers of demons have become a constant presence in his mind, their voices never far from his thoughts. And yet, Draigo fights on, determined to protect the Imperium from the forces that seek to destroy it. He fights not just for humanity, but for his brothers, for the Grey Knights who stand beside him, who look to him for guidance. But even as Draigo stands at the head of the Grey Knights, leading them into battle after battle, he cannot escape the question that haunts him. What happens when the cost of his power is too great? He has already paid a heavy price for his abilities. His mind, his body, his soul, each part of him has been stretched, broken, and reshaped by the warp. Can he continue this way forever, or is there an inevitable reckoning waiting for him? Is Draigo destined to be consumed by the very force that has made him powerful? Or is there a way for him to regain what he has lost? It is not just Draigo's own fear that threatens him. It is the fear of what he might become. Every time he uses his psychic abilities, he risks losing control, becoming something far darker. The fear of becoming a demon, of succumbing to the very powers he has battled against, gnaws at him. It is this fear that drives Draigo, propelling him forward, even as it slowly erodes the man he once was. The more he fights, the more he sacrifices, the more he wonders, is it worth it? As Draigo looks to the future, he knows that his time is running out. The Grey Knights will always need a leader, but Draigo can feel his grip on his own soul slipping. The warp is a seductive force, one that draws him in with promises of power and immortality. And yet, Draigo knows that the price of that power is more than he can afford. Can a man who has given so much, who has sacrificed everything, ever truly be whole again? Or is Draigo doomed to live out the rest of his days as a shadow of the warrior he once was, bound to the warp, forever fighting a war that threatens to consume him? The question of Draigo's future is one that will remain unanswered for now. But one thing is certain, his story is far from over. The Grey Knights will continue to fight, and Draigo will continue to lead them. But as he steps into battle once more, he knows that each fight, each victory will come with a cost. The cost of power, the cost of his soul, and the cost of his humanity. Will Draigo find a way to reclaim what he has lost? Or will the very power that makes him the Imperium's greatest weapon become his undoing? The road ahead is uncertain, and the stakes have never been higher. Draigo's story is far from finished, and the final chapter may yet reveal a truth that even Draigo himself cannot see. Can Draigo ever truly be whole again? Or is the man who once stood as the Imperium's greatest protector destined to fall to the very forces he once fought so fiercely against?